Will the Palestinian-Israeli conflict ever end?
We've been analyzing why this conflict is happening, and for you to understand, we'll give you a brief summary of what is happening.
The three regions, Israel, Gaza, and West Bank, were once known as Palestine. Israeli Jews and Palestinian Arabs are fighting for the ownership of the Palestinian territory.
After the Arab-Israeli War of 1947, Palestine was divided into areas. Jewish Israelis began migrating to a different area in the 1980s. They claimed the land is based on a promise from God and also for the need for a second.
The Gaza Strip is along the Mediterranean coast between Israel and Egypt. Approximately 1.4 million residents are Palestinian refugees, many of whom have been living in refugee camps for decades. 80% were estimated to be living in poverty in 2007.
Under the Oslo Peace Accord signed in 1993, Gaza was turned over the newly created Palestinian Authority to form one wing of an emerging Palestinian state, along with the West Bank and a potential land corridor between them. But two different parties rules these two regions. The militant Hamas control Gaza and Fatah rule the West Bank. Many Israeli settlers remain in Gaza.
In September 2005, the Israeli Prime Minister Ariel Sharon withdrew all Israeli settlers for Gaza. That was the first territory that was in Palestinian hands. Israel, however, kept tight control over all the borders and continued to conduct riots.
In January 2006, Hamas won a surprise victory in the Palestinian parliamentary elections, ousting the Fatah government. Then, in a burst of fighting in June 2007, in which more than 100 people were killed, Hamas gunmen routed the Fatah forces and seized control over Gaza outright. Israel, which had refused to recognize the Hamas government, responded by clamping down even tighter on the flow of goods and people in and out of the territories.
By June 2008, Hamas and Israel were both ready to reach an agreement, and the 6-month truce was declared although never formally defined. Hamas officials said that their job was to stop rocket attacks on Israel, not only from its own armed groups, but also from others based in Gaza, including Islamic Jihad and Al-Aqsa Martyrs Brigades.
It took some days, but they succeeded. Hamas imposed their will and even captured some of those who were firing rockets. But the goods shipment, while up some 25 to 30%, and including a mix of items, never began to approach the Hamas, though it was going to happen. Israel said that they were going to plan on increasing the shipments in stages and noted that the rockets were never going to stop completely.
After the armistice lapsed on December 19, rocket firing stepped up quickly, and Israeli airstrikes soon followed. The deaths on the first day were estimated at 225. By December 29, it had raised up to 300. On January the 3rd, a land invasion of Gaza began, and by January 8, the death toll was 660.
After you know all of this Israeli-Palestinian conflict, we'll talk about an opinion of solution. Israel can't agree to a solution that would eventually lead to the end of the Jewish state and the slaughter of its citizens. Because the Palestinian leadership refuses to a negotiation for peace and continues to advocate conquest of the entire Holy Land. Israel must, for security reasons, remain in control of the West Bank. While the situation is not ideal until the Palestinians agree to have peace with Israel, providing them to do not resume terrorism, they could be welcomed as partners in the Israeli economic system and would be able to fully participate in Israel's commercial and creative life. Obviously, the point of view of the Arabs about having to wait longer for the launch of a Palestinian state will be painful for them. But this is a price that must be paid if Palestinian leaders refuse to negotiate peace and cling to the futile dream of conquering Israel. Israel has given its land in Gaza to the Palestinians in the name of peace. Israel has suffered 97% of the West Bank and a Palestinian capital in East Jerusalem in the name of peace. It's time the Arabs acclimate to a status quo of their own making and take advantage of living next to one of the most successful countries in the world. In less words, they need to learn how to live with each other's existence and accept them as they are, and not to try anything of each other.